In San Diego, one ICE agent used federal databases to spy on his ex-wife's new boyfriend. Another agent used the database to give a detainee's private information to someone who wasn't authorized to have it. Those are just a few examples of misconduct. In San Diego and Imperial counties, 26 ICE agents and contractors were investigated for this type of behavior between 2016 and 2019, records show. Most of these employees improperly used computers and databases. In fact, the most common violation was using federal law enforcement databases for self-queries, or just looking yourself up.
They might seem like low-level offenses.
David Moss is policy director at the Electronic Frontier Foundation. He says looking yourself up on a database may not seem like a big deal.
But what they do is tell a broader picture of the culture of DHS and ICE and CBP.
And that broader picture could include more serious violations, and that creates public mistrust.
People feel like they're not being watched and they can look up whatever they want in the database. And maybe that starts with them looking up themselves, and maybe that progresses to looking up their ex-wives.
Part of what makes this so concerning for Moss is the sheer amount of personal data these databases have about us. He says they can track our movements with license plate readers. They have information about where we work and who we spend time with.
They may have like a massive amount of information. They keep ingesting more and more. It's very difficult to know the full breadth of information they have.
In fact, in 2018, some of those databases were used to track lawyers and humanitarian workers helping migrants in Tijuana. That included Nicole Ramos. She's a director of Al Otro Lado's Border Rights Project, which gives legal advice to asylum seekers trapped in Mexico. Ramos was one of the people under surveillance. Customs and Border Protection even had a dossier on her.
And that included information such as my mother's name, where she lives in the interior, my travel, including international travel that did not originate in the US, my car license model.
This type of surveillance has real-world consequences. Ramos first found out that something was off when CBP agents sent her to a secondary inspection.
That was when a supervisor confiscated my global entry card.
Global entry cards are vital for people who live on the border. They allow people to cross through special car and pedestrian lanes that are much faster than the general lanes. Having one of those cards is the difference between crossing the border in 30 minutes or 3 hours. Records show that some ICE agents faced little discipline after their violations were sustained. For example, that agent who used a database to spy on his ex-wife's new boyfriend, that case was not referred to management. Same thing with another agent who did a license plate search without authorization. Immigration and Customs Enforcement did not respond to a request for comment.
There is zero transparency and zero accountability.
Ramos says she's still under surveillance. She avoids crossing the border unless she absolutely has to.
People might say, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have anything to worry about. But the fact that I'm not doing anything wrong should be enough for the government to not surveil us and keep us on a watch list.
Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.